But many families, those who are well-to-do, they have surrendered their subsidies, and that's how the Ujjwala Yojana was ready or able to provide gas cylinder to maximum marginalized household women. Subtle engagement of a stakeholder was done from the government by provoking by provoking normal household or the population. See whether if you are not taking or if you are well to do, just
The Give
surrender
It Up,
it,
yes, the Give It
give
Up
it up,
campaign.
give it
So
up.
such a beautiful public campaign, and from
Yes.
our perspective, we can immediately link it to yagya or dana.
In the process, the gap of communication, sharing the objective of this policy and going down to the level where it has to be implemented, and then there is a gap. So
Namaste, Ishaji. Thank you so much for giving us time, and it's indeed a pleasure and an honor to get your attention and an opportunity to discuss a matter of public importance with you. At Bṛhat, our truth and our thinking has always been around culture-compatible public policy. Like, how do you look at public policy, state mechanisms, and the way individuals, collectives, and institutions come together to have stability, to work towards prosperity, while retaining our own unique and distinct identity. So this important triad of identity, the question of who we are, the question of stability, how do we come together, and the question of prosperity, how do we generate some kind of value that can then be distributed and the quality of life can be improved. All of public policy, as we understand, centers around these meta questions. And in our work, we look at two elements of this. One is studying the Indian civilizational worldview. What are the values? Professor Kapil Kapoorji has a very famous statement. He says, India is a knowledge-centric civilization. Indian culture is value-centric culture, and Indian society is duty-centric society. So this triad, once again, of knowledge, values, and duty seems to have given us our civilization. So we study what these values are, what are the truth claims in our civilization, how did these truth claims really pervade or how did they imbue the entire society, and how did people self-organize themselves in accordance with these values to actually come together and live together. What we call civilization is a long experience of being together. It also means we've made all the mistakes, right? All the mistakes
yes.
that somebody might think are new mistakes. We probably have made all of them and learned from them. So that is the, from a knowledge dimension, from a civilizational dimension. And then, of course, there is the intersection with modernity, particularly the modern state. We look at state as the biggest technology. Right? It is the state that can generate all other technologies as well. So, what informs state and public policy today? Like the simple definition that we have in public policy of whatever the state decides or decides not to do, and that is become public policy. So, what informs the state to either do something or not do something? But we look at this also from how the institutions that we have in our civilization, not just the public institutions that we have today as a modern democratic republic, but the civilizational institutions, let's say a family or temple or some kind of guru systems that we have. So these meta institutions of family, guru, temple, or any other collective institutions, how have they been designed? And when we hear the public leadership vision of Viksit Bharat, when we hear the public leadership vision of Atmanirbharta or Amrit Kal, we understand, and this has been a vision that has been very, very inspiringly articulated by our leadership, that it should be based on Swatantra, our own mechanism. So our work is in that realm. So it's a honor for me to speak with somebody who's actually leading a public institution and understands this deeper than I do, right? Because mine is an inspiration, and I'm looking to learn from your experience. So thank you so much for giving us time today. As the director of a very important public institution, Gujarat Institute of Development Research, you are at the heart of a lot of these debates, not just as ideas, but how these ideas translate into specific programs, measurements, how does that feedback into policy, how does the leadership react. So we want to learn from your story. I'm sure the story has many layers. If you could give us the institutional story as well as your own personal journey and reflection on it, we'll begin with that.
Thank you, Raghavji. Actually, you have given a plethora of thoughts uh, to think about and to answer your questions. Uh, I will just share what I have learned and what is happening. Maybe in between, maybe I could be able to answer or connect what you
Yes.
have spoken and your thought process. And your thoughts are very deeply engrossed with the Indian culture, knowledge, system, civilization, and whatever you have quoted about knowledge, values, and duty. Um, my understanding is that what exactly Bṛhat is doing and talking about deeply into Indian knowledge system and policy should be like that. It should be like knowledge driven, value driven, duty driven. अगर if we see deeply into real actual policy, whether it's centrally driven or it is state driven or the local driven, everything is there in knowledge, duty, responsibility, everything, all points are there. And only thing is the names are different. Only thing, the way they are putting, the way they are explaining and narrating, the narration of the policy make the policy different. So how they narrate, whether they are narrating policy for upgrading the social system, social structure, or the narrative of the policy is development, or the narrative of the policy is welfare, or the narrative of policy for the international trade. It's it's a narration which is created or the made by the policymaker, bureaucrats, or it's coming out from the top.
Yeah.
But the basic of every policy, if you see the objective of the policy and you align the policy with these points which you have discussed about our Indian civilization, vision, mission, it is there. The thing is how we implement, how the particular government is implementing. Most of the part, what I found, when knowledge is there, value is there, duty is there, but sometimes it these things are not implemented as per it was designed. So when it was designed, the flow and the process and system is different. When it is implemented and it is coming through the various process, and in the process, the gap of communication, sharing the objective of this policy and going down to the level where it has to be implemented. And then there is a gap. So gap of information dissemination. For example, Ujjwala Yojana was created or initiated. So Ujjwala Yojana was initiated to protect women, to give them right, and to make them happy that they are not exposed to carbon dioxide and the harmful environment. But if you go through the philosophy of that scheme, the philosophy is that, of course, the duty of the government to give equal right to women, to give equal opportunity to women. And what is the role of common people that this subsidy of gas, it was there. But many families, those who are well to do, they have surrendered their subsidies. And that's how this Ujjwala Yojana was ready or able to provide gas cylinder to maximum marginalized household women. So there is a shift of some something which provoked, helped government to provide gas cylinder to the women. So here, now you see here, the engagement of stakeholder, subtle engagement of a stakeholder was done from the government by provoking normal household or the population. See, whether if you are not taking or if you are well to do, just
The Give
surrender
It Up.
it.
Yes, the Give It
Give
Up
it up.
campaign.
Give it
So
up.
such a beautiful public campaign, and from
Yes,
our perspective, we can immediately link it to yagya or dana, the
absolutely. Absolutely.
civilization value. Yeah.
Yes. So here, what after talking to you, what I feel like there is a need of link of institution like yours and the government to tell them or maybe to bring a kind of fusion,
Yes.
right? See, what is
Yes.
happening is not wrong. Only thing
Absolutely.
is to it's not wrong. I
Yes.
would say it's not wrong because I am
Absolutely.
closely working with the
Yes.
bureaucrats, government, and I found there is no objective is defined or narrated with any wrong intention.
Yes, absolutely. And it's important for everybody to understand it because
Yes,
sometimes we don't respect our leaders enough or
yes,
the responsibility of
yes,
leadership. It doesn't
yes,
matter what your political persuasion is, but
right,
in our public policy sessions, we begin with this. We begin with the empathy a citizen need to cultivate for the complexity of public leadership. It's very,
right,
very important. Absolutely.
right. I again, I would say there can be exceptions, and those who are not doing as per the requirement. It's fine, fine. We are not here to discuss about that.
Yeah.
My observation, I'm not telling it's others. My observation, meeting with all bureaucrats, meeting with the government, these public leaders, they have empathy, they have a passion, they they think for the larger uh, part of the community. But when the population is
Yes.
too is high, I mean,
Yeah.
in India we cannot address everyone, but
Yes.
yes, our policies are made like that,
Yeah.
that our Pradhan Mantri ji is making the policy or initiating the policy, thinking about the last person of our
Absolutely.
society. You
Absolutely.
take example of housing for all,
Yeah.
right? You see housing for all, it is coming out from the Kautilya Arthashastra or from the Ramayana or from Manusmriti, that the housing, I mean, providing shelter to the population or to our citizen is the first priority,
Yes.
right? Still written.
Absolutely.
Uh,
Absolutely.
and same thing if you see housing, what is housing for all? Housing for all is that every section of society who is marginalized, be it a Muslim, be it a Hindu, be it anyone, there is no caste discrimination.
There is no discrimination in this.
There is no
It is public
discrimination
good.
at all.
Yeah, it is
Right.
governance delivering public goods.
It's a governance, yes,
Yes.
governance delivering public goods to those who are really need of that.
Yeah.
And for that, there are some rules and regulations. Who will
Yes.
get it? Who will not get it? So, because for everything there should be rule. Everything there
Yes.
should be some cutoff.
Yes.
Yeah, there
Yes.
should be some regulations. Otherwise, everyone will come and ask that I need house.
Yes.
Right. So for that, government has created some regulations, some, and that again, what government has created some rules, some policy. Who will get it? Who will not get it? That is based on research.
Yeah.
That is based on their data.
Yes.
Right. So now another thing comes whether data is important or not
Mm.
for the policy making, or whether only data is important or
Yes.
other things are
How do you
not
balance?
important. So here maybe you may ask another question. So I am taking this question as my discussion. You know,
Sure.
so data is absolutely very important.
Yes.
Now the question is, data is a what kind of data?
Mm.
Is a qualitative data? Is quantitative data? So
Mm.
generally, general understanding is that data means quantitative data.
Yeah. Yeah.
Data means numbers,
Yes.
right? How
Yeah.
many people have houses and how
Yeah.
many not? How
Yeah.
many are living in under nutrition, or they are well off? This
Yeah.
number.
Yeah.
So calculating the nutritional value, whether it is from the calories or from the thali,
Yeah. True.
right? Calculating the quality of life is from the quality of car or fridge, or calculating the quality of life whether they are happy, they're
Yeah.
healthy, they're well-being. It
Yeah.
it is a kind of questions which is a subjective. So what
Yes.
is objective reality and what is a subjective reality?
And,
So
and he framed this also, I think the government framed it as ease of living, right? Not just
yes,
ease of doing business, but also ease
yes,
of living, right?
ease of, yeah, yeah, yeah. So ease of living, it doesn't mean that you should have a big car.
Yes. What are the
Indicator.
metrics? Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
So nowhere I think nowhere you have seen that the well-being metrics or the quality of life metrics having big car,
Yeah.
right? The matrix would be always literacy, health, better quality of living,
Yeah.
reaching to
Public schools.
doctors,
Yes.
public school. These
Yeah.
these are the indicators,
Yeah.
and that are the something basic and something above basic, which make people happy.
Yes.
So for that, Ministry of Culture is there. For
Yes.
something, Ministry of Art and Culture and Civil, everything is coming up. So
Yeah.
when you look at a bigger picture and look at the government, and then you connect the dots, you'll find that government is Indian government. I'm talking about Indian government.
Yes.
From the bigger perspective, from the larger perspective, government has taken various perspective and the narrative and the
Yeah.
facts
Yeah.
which make India and Indian proud.
Yes.
The
Absolutely.
only thing is, yes, it is a responsibility of civil society also to
Absolutely.
take this thing in a positive mode
Yes.
and take their responsibility, that this is not only the government responsibility to clean the park.
Yeah.
It is not only the government responsibility to keep our society better. It is
Yeah.
our responsibility how we take initiative, and
The
that will
duty.
come duty. Yes, yes,
Absolutely.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
The duty, then the duty comes from your from some passion,
Yeah.
and that passion can be created. We need again few leaders,
Yes.
local leaders,
Yeah.
I mean leaders who can motivate, not by their thoughts, not by their saying, but by their action.
Yes.
So if
And
leader is cleaning and leader is keeping things what is required as per our civilizational perspective, as
yes.
per our cultural perspective, I think time, it will take little time, but
Yes.
things will possible certainly.
Absolutely. No, you touched on a number of aspects, and they are very closely linked to. We run a program called Niti Vidana, which is our public policy education program, which is
Okay.
to do precisely what you have just guided. Like, how do you actually help citizens understand the link between governance, complexity, and their own responsibility? And
Right.
honestly, in my own journey, I've been observing this for at least 10, 15 years now. I think there has been a very sincere and a very higher order effect of trying to reorient the relationship between the citizen and the state in the last 10 years. Right?
Yes.
From one of, and that's why we keep hearing this idea of Jan Bhagidari whenever
Hmm.
Prime Minister speaks about this,
Hmm.
that it is a partnership and it's a
Hmm.
participatory universe.
Hmm.
Public policy is not something that the state designs and implements and
Hmm.
citizens
Hmm.
receive, but it
Hmm.
is actually a participatory universe that we all co-create. I think the
Hmm.
spirit has been very, very deeply imbued even in bureaucratic culture.
Hmm.
I can see that in my own interactions as well. One
Hmm.
of the things that you also mentioned is it's actually a very important thing for public policy thinkers to understand, and we teach this in our public policy course, that politics is
Hmm.
the art of expansion. Right? You need to in politics, every additional vote matters,
Hmm.
and you have to respect the complexity with which the leaders have to deal with in a democracy, in a diverse democracy. Now, we are sometimes unable to separate the political discourse from the policy discourse, where in policy making,
Hmm.
policy is the art of possible, right? You will have to, it is not maximization. It is
Hmm.
actually, in a way, it is doing according, you will at some point, you can say whatever as a political narrative, but at the policy level, it has to have certain metrics. You need to have a
Absolutely.
power and understanding. You need to have a definition of who is a beneficiary. You need to have some kind of measurement of when that benefit should begin and how it should end. We talk about in policy language, we talk about the principle of irreversibility, right?
Right.
If you're making a policy that is going on perpetually, that means
Yeah.
that resource that you're investing in that is being taken away from something else. That's why you should know when to invest in a certain public good and when that benefit should be taken away. And we've had
Mm.
these debates also in public culture. You look at OROP, you look at Ujjwala, but the way it has been addressed, like you pointed out, it's not
Mm.
a high-handed measure from a state. It is also invoking the goodness in the citizens. Give it
Mm.
up campaign is so powerful because it is helping us actually give something up. And this is
Right.
also the way we look at it from our perspective. This is a deeply civilizational idea because
Mm.
in our worldview, this whole element of tyaga and
Yeah.
seva,
Mm.
these are the meta values of our civilization. So what we
Right.
try and do is this spirit of public governance, this spirit
Mm.
of building a compact between the citizen and the leadership and the state. We frame it in civilizational terms because it is more relatable to people. Actually, all of political leaders understand this because in
Yeah.
political speeches, you need to connect with people in a language
Mm.
that they understand. But somehow,
Right.
policy language becomes too technical, right?
Mm.
It becomes clinical, which is of course needed to a certain degree. But I think there
Mm.
is possibility to start looking at this as values and elements from our own culture because like you said there is no substitute for leadership at a local level at a national level
Mm.
because Bharat has
Right.
also always been a Jananayaka culture. We
Mm.
like our public leaders. Bharat is a
Mm.
very trusting society. The greatest asset that we have and what we call dharma is basically the elements that build trust between one another in a nation. When you don't have that, and if you contrast it with some of the struggles that we're seeing in the Western world in public policy, in recent times, in the last 10, 15 years, there has been a severe erosion of public institutions in the West. Uh, and this is a very critical study for Indian policy thinkers and administrators to do because some of the promises that have been made by a certain kind of globalization, certain kind of liberal international order, their promises are breaking down in their own societies. There is a great new book that we reviewed on this. It's called The Revolt of Public, where the information architecture changing with the
Mhm.
advent of social media has actually broken down the entire structure of public communication in the West because the communication was vertical up until that time. You have a prime minister, then you have some kind of technocratic bureaucracy, then you have institutions like media, which communicate policy, and everybody got their information about the world from there. But this became horizontal, where people
Mm.
started pooling and creating information. And when that started happening, this vertical narrative broke down. You mentioned public narratives. And that is the
Mm.
struggle that they're having. But if you look at Bharat, Bharat has had horizontal information architecture forever, right? This kind of structure that we have in the society,
Mm.
and this, when it is paired with public leaders that they're able to trust, is what gives us growth. That what we are hearing from the institutions is the vision, and it is also reflected in the information systems that we are in. And that is why we look at it in the last 10, 15 years when we look at Bharat. I think a fundamental rewiring of this citizen state relationship is happening through this act of leadership and how the society is. So this is part of how we teach. I'm very, very happy, and I feel a little bit validated when you
Mm.
mention it first. We'd also like to understand from you your own personal journey. There is of course, the institutional policy making and the kind of vision and how it goes into structures, like you mentioned. But you come from an environmental studies background. You looked at environmental economics. Your passion in
Yes.
water conservation. So how has that journey been, and how do you contrast this, let's say, with any other work or with any other role that you perform?
Yeah, see, I'll start not from the very beginning, but from my PhD.
Yes.
From my PhD time, I will discuss something. During my PhD, I did one research project of Indo-German research project, CCCDA, Shastri Indo-Canadian Research Project, and that was a project on how detergents are polluting water, synthetic detergents are polluting water, and what are the economics and social costs. So I there was a group of professors who were working in this project. So some were looking at the water perspective, real testing of water quality in the lab. Then social scientists, they're looking at how washermen were treated and how they are affected when they are washing. And it was the 2003. um, and then some taxonomy, some policy perspective people were there. So I was working with IIT Kanpur on and Harcourt Butler Technological Institute. So that was the kind of eye-opening work which I did with the. Uh, I mean, in that age, early age, I was just 24, and meeting with the people of Canadian professors and Clive Saudi, Raka Saran, Professor R.K. Trivedi, and I mean, so at that time when you were meeting the gem of the knowledge, and they're talking about, and every weekend and every month we used to meet either IIT Kanpur or HBTI and these professors, and we were just writing something, whatever they're speaking. And that made my life really change how to assess water quality. So I was working on economic perspective, the cost benefit analysis of water pollution, cost benefit analysis, so mainly social cost. I started focusing on social cost, how those labor or the women making detergent, their health was deteriorating, and then that health was deteriorating. Money is going to the health, meeting doctors, and then the quality of life was affected. Nobody is calculating that social cost. And that social cost they are not calculating, the benefit they are not calculating if they are using water which is pure and
Mm.
water. So from that journey it started. I started understanding environmental economics, sustainability. Then I worked with Professor Arun Sahai in MDI Gurgaon,
Oh.
and there I worked with him, and I worked one of the project that was this computer, so hazardous impact of computers and the computer dismantling.
Mm.
And again,
The
then I calculated
electronic
social.
waste. Yeah.
Yes, yes, electronic waste. And I worked in the again social and economic cost, a contingent valuation method, and how this hazardous waste, computer waste, electronic waste have a parallel market, and it's a huge market. It's a huge
Mm.
market. And I went this and saw this market. I saw thousands people are working, and they are not worrying about their health. What they are worrying about, what are the things, some metal they can take out from the computer, and that oh big huge computers, and they can make money. And there are, so that market I learned. After that, then I did again a postdoc research at IIT Mumbai, where I worked on a portable water management
Oh.
in Mumbai area, and what are the costs we can calculate for potable water, and what is the stakeholder analysis, stakeholder engagement, how and the again, as I did that project, Indo-Canadian research project, most important learning of my life was I did another project with the MMRDA, that is a rehabilitation and resettlement, and that is a 2005 flood. And this project was with the IIT Bombay, and in the sociological department, environment department, industrial design department. So again, meeting with the multidisciplinary approach,
Mm.
we were working with the design department, we were working with the policy department. So everything was taking together, how this group was discussing economic, society, social structure, water conservation, flood rehabilitation, meeting with the bureaucrats, right? So everything is coming together. We were talking everything, iska movie bhi banana hai,
Mm.
right? Uska, and we have to meet those who were rehabilitated, we have to go to the those who were affected by flood, and the policy, how to convert into
And the
policy.
academic work also. Yes, absolutely.
Yes, so that was the learning for me, how you can work with the multi stakeholders, and just think. So then your mind will open. It's not only the economics, it's not only the I mean sociology or social structure. So there are so many things which work to make one policy.
Yeah, this is really music to my ears,
Yeah,
because when we look at articulating Indian knowledge systems, right,
yeah,
there are many different framings. Some of them are academic, some of them are unfortunately pedantic. Uh,
yes,
the way we have understood, personally understood, and how as Bṛhat we are trying to articulate Indian knowledge systems, is the content pedagogy experience that builds multidisciplinary minds to deal with the
mm,
complexity of the future.
right.
It is because when we look at dharma, and again I go back to what Kapil Kapoorji says. He
Uh,
says there is a one word unwritten constitution for over 5,000 years in Bharat. A
hmm,
one word unwritten constitution, which is dharma. Dharma
Dharma.
actually
Hmm,
is that complexity, because dharma
hmm,
has behavior, dharma has
hmm,
evolutionary sciences,
hmm,
dharma has cultural elements, which are the rituals, socialization
hmm,
process, the sociological
hmm,
groups. Dharma
hmm,
has ecological dimensions. Dharma
hmm,
is what we understand as pancharina, and all of these are ecological practices.
hmm,
So
hmm, hmm.
this is exactly the kind of thinking from, of course, from our worldview that we are trying to
Yes,
bring. Because how do we scale up the number of people who are able to assimilate this complexity? Not by
right,
accident, but by
right.
actual design using the
Yes,
institutions that we have. So the
right,
way we have given the vision to ourselves, Nishaji, is making sure that no child leaves education without being acquainted with some of the core corpus that we have. For
right.
example, Natya Shastra gives you fantastic aesthetic intelligence, how to actually
Absolutely.
present, how to actually conduct some things. Yoga
Yes,
Sutra gives you a extraordinary psychological intelligence to understand your
right.
own mind, body, energy, and how do you manage that. And you look at something like Mahabharata and Ramayana, they give you great socio-political cultural intelligence. What is
Right.
Bharatavarsha? How do people think here? What are the seasons here? What is the land here? There's so much of information around the lakes, all of this in Ramayana particularly. Just around
Hmm.
Ayodhya, you will see so many of these things in action even today. Right?
Hmm.
So Itihasa Purana becomes a way of developing socio-cultural intelligence.
Hmm.
Similarly, you look at something like Ashtadhyayi, which is linguistic cognitive intelligence. Tarka Shastra, Nyaya Shastra becomes how do you reason? How do you present your argument? How do you know your argument has limitations? How do you
Hmm.
respect somebody else's argument? How do you
Hmm.
genuinely practice Purva Paksha for a political
Hmm.
culture of debate and meaning? So we look at the knowledge systems fundamentally as the means to develop this multidisciplined mind to then actually deal with the complexity that you're talking about, right? The beautiful
Yes.
confluence of different disciplines. When you look at
Yes.
water as an
Hmm.
issue, it has
Hmm.
social, it has policy, it has structural, it has
Hmm.
economic dimensions. This kind of box of lens that we need to
Hmm.
integrate in our public leaders is exactly what our program is about. So for me, it's a validation, and of course, my submission to you is that Indian knowledge systems has some of the basis to develop these intelligences.
Right, right. I could totally agree. I will share with you one paper where I have tried to analyze some scheme of government like Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana or maybe Man Ki Baat. I
Yeah,
started looking at Man Ki Baat,
such a
and
powerful public communication innovation that is.
yeah, yeah, this is a public innovation. This is a kind of a narrative which other leader has not done. This is a kind of basic things where radio become the means of communication which was just disappearing.
Yes,
So revival, see the revival of the culture, revival of sitting in a group, revival of sitting in a group where people can communicate. So
yes,
if we start analyzing Man Ki Baat, it is
yes,
not a kind of communication among or between our Pradhan Mantri ji and larger larger society, but it is an information or maybe cultural dissemination gradually, slowly,
yes,
and just you slip into it. You just slip. So
yes,
and just start thinking about when he talks about some carpenter, when he talks
yes,
about someone who has
yes,
done some change in some state, and
yes,
then he feel happy. Yes,
yes.
Pradhan Mantri ji has taken my name, and
It's a
just
powerful role
recognize.
modeling,
It's a role
absolutely powerful
modeling.
role modeling. and
Yeah.
what they have done with Padma Awards in public culture similarly.
Right, right. And you see, and then that is a kind of recognition. So when you recognize someone, so actually normal nature of human being is what? If you start looking at what is the basic nature of human being? The basic nature of human being, they, apart from anything, people are looking for the appreciation,
Yes, validation, some kind of recognition,
validation, some
connection.
kind of validation, some kind of appreciation, some
Yeah,
kind of dignity.
yeah,
Whatever I am doing, it is dignified. And when Pradhan Mantri ji is doing that thing, see how people will think
yes,
about the,
yes,
and that kind of create a mission, motivation, and that will, I mean, spill over.
absolutely, absolutely.
So same
We are
thing is,
done.
yeah.
Sorry, sir. Yeah,
So same thing what I was telling you about. This is a positive thing. But if you see example of three agriculture policy and which created a lot of chaos, why it happened. So one thing is Man Ki Baat, very positive taken. Another thing, this is a policy of agriculture which
something
was
lost.
not well taken,
Yeah,
created chaos, created conflict. Then policy maker or maybe leaders, they have to look at what is the missing, where was the gap, and that need to look at carefully with the both qualitative, quantitative, and what data which is not actually you are is visible,
yes,
something to assess, something to observe, something to reflect.
yes, yes. We had actually assisted the research of a book called The Power Within. It was by Dr. R.
Yes,
Balasubramanian ji. So we were the
I
research
read.
team. Yeah,
Yeah,
we
yeah,
were the
yeah.
research team. We supported
Great.
Balu sir on that. In that, we had researched on this Indian idea of communication. Right? What
Okay.
you had mentioned about the power of public communication in a format like Man Ki Baat. It
Right.
comes deeply from a principle in Indian communication from Natya Shastra, which is Sadharanikaran.
Hmm.
Our theory of communication itself, and there is a whole history behind it.
Hmm.
There are two prominent schools of communication in the West. One is called the process method, and one is
Hmm.
called the semiotic
System.
method.
Okay.
Semiotic
Hmm.
method. The
Semiotic method.
process method is where they are looking at how the speaker is manipulating the receiver. So it's
Hmm.
always a manipulation. It's a strategic kind of thing. In the
Right.
semiotic school, which is from the Marxist lens, it's mostly about who has the power, only who has the
Right.
power as communication. But
Right.
Indian communication has not been that. India's
Hmm.
communication, there's a beautiful book on this by a professor in Ahmedabad. I'll share the book link with you. It's on Nati Shastra and communication philosophy. He talks
Okay.
about the idea of Sadharanikaran, which
Hmm.
comes to us from Nati Shastra, where
Hmm.
the purpose of communication in Indian culture is for the speaker and listener to become one. It
Okay.
is not manipulation. It is not
Hmm.
power. It is yoga.
Hmm.
आपका जो भाव है,
Hmm.
if I am able to receive that bhav, then there is rasa produced. Whatever
Hmm. Hmm.
emotion, the emotion
Agree.
that you are speaking with, if I'm able to understand it because of my tendency, then we become one in that communication. This is actually the power of that man ki baat from
Yes.
a way we would look at it from our articulating it from our knowledge systems, that it is a process of sadharanikaran with the entire common people, common public. And then of course the point that you mentioned about role modeling, when somebody
Hmm.
becomes that, not just that person's self validation, but also the
Hmm.
signal it sends to the rest of the culture on
Hmm.
what is recognized. Ultimately culture, when we speak, is what is celebrated, what is not approved. And this is a very
Hmm.
subtle process. It's not only rules. You
Hmm.
don't do this by rules. When you say that this person who's planted 1,000 trees is being
Hmm.
celebrated, not just the
Hmm.
person, but the act is being culturalized. That if I have to
Right.
gain recognition, I have to do that. And this is what the leadership is looking for. So this, I think, has been a very powerful. This one again, once again, we bring these kind of elements into our. We actually also do this for IAS officers. A couple
Hmm.
of weeks ago, as part of Mission Karma Yogi, we did a workshop using this kind of lens for Indian
Hmm.
Railways, the
Okay. Hmm.
IRITM Lucknow, the Indian Railways Institute of Management. They're training.
Hmm.
So this is, I think, we are going through, like you said, a powerful movement of transition and transformation in public culture itself through all of this institutions, leadership, knowledge systems, some kind of
Hmm.
prosperity, communication mechanisms. So it's a very interesting time to be in on that. What are the gaps that you see, Chachi? Just to end, because we've spoken about
Yeah.
the public
Yes.
institutions, spoken about your
Yes.
journey.
Yeah.
What are
Yeah.
some areas I can take into my coaching or into my program and say, okay, we need to be aware of these gaps? If you could just, uh,
Yeah,
elaborate.
yeah, because we discuss lots of positive things, right?
Yes, we have to
Uh,
also.
yeah, and that is very important. That is very important because very few think tank, or maybe I would say in news, very less discussion on
Yes,
positive
yes,
things.
yes,
Huh?
yeah,
And that is our duty to talk about what really government is doing good thing.
yes, absolutely.
And I believe on that because 100% no one can do.
Yes, it's such a
Right.
vast, complex
It's
country.
such a vast country. 100% is not possible. Right. 100% perfection is not possible. But certainly we need to look at from learning and what is implemented. Where is the gap?
Yeah,
For example, I given an example of this uh, three policies of agriculture. Where was
yes,
the gap?
farm laws.
That is a
Yes,
very good example of we should learn. India should learn where was the gap. Whether it was because of the vertical narrative or horizontal narrative, or whether the stakeholder was not involved, or some communication which we have not taken seriously that it might affect the decision, it might affect the implementation. Sometimes we means I'm talking about we means our
as public.
government or yeah
Yeah.
as a public.
Mm,
Sometimes we take something very lightly,
mm,
and
mm,
the thing which you have taken lightly that this part of community will not affect the decision, only
mm.
that will make that can create a problem for you,
Yes, true.
uh,
So true.
because they started feeling that I am marginalized, and then some a few leaders which have some other intention,
Yeah,
or maybe some policy gap,
yeah,
maybe some engagement,
yeah,
engagement, stakeholder engagement, maybe taking them together in decision making,
yeah.
or convincing them the importance of the that policy, convincing them how it is, whether it has a long term vision or the short term vision, because over the 10 years from now, who can see? Everyone
Yes.
cannot see. No,
Mm,
normal person cannot see. They will see
true.
कि आज की सब्जी है कि नहीं
Correct.
हमारे पास में, तो
Yeah.
उनके लिए वही विजन करना पड़ेगा कि
Mm,
यस
mm,
यू हैव ए प्लेट ऑफ फुll plate for today and tomorrow.
mm,
You have fee to give for your child. They
mm,
will not forget कि uh, after a year or after 6 months some other country is going to attack.
mm,
It is not in their vision.
mm,
But government has to look at all the perspective.
mm,
So bigger vision. For that, I think some layers of understanding the society,
mm,
government should look at or think at m- more worker who can understand the pulse of society,
mm,
who can understand the reality in the ground. So
mm,
reality in the ground. When I went when see one scheme is there, Manav Kalyan Yojana. I mean Manav Kalyan Yojana, they distribute the kit. For example, to women they give beauty parlor kit, or maybe
mm,
so different skills, and they gave kit to support them.
mm,
And now the question is they are ensuring whether the kit has been distributed properly or not
mm, mm,
in
mm.
the Gujarat.
Yeah.
ठीक है, we did this work, kit has been distributed. So what? What next?
Yeah.
So maybe there would be gap. Government has to look at after distribution of the kit whether they have started working or not. Number one, number two, whether their quality of life has been changed or not.
Yeah.
Because some of them they start selling, they take it, they sell it,
Yeah.
and
And there's a second-hand market that evolves out of that.
the second hand market is there. So there can be a gap. I'm not telling, maybe the next scheme is coming up that to check the skill.
Mm, mm.
But
So,
in the reality, when you go to the in the field, you'll
mm,
find some more reality,
mm,
which is not recorded in the paper. And I
mm.
think it's not necessary to record in the paper. It's not
Yes.
important. The important thing is that to understand, to see, and implement or maybe redesign,
Yes.
restructure, redesign, or reshape, which government does. I'm sure government does.
Iterative policy making.
Alternative policy making. That is one thing. Second thing, one book, very interesting book, is Health of Nation. I read. If you, I think you must have read Health of Nation,
Okay.
where from one is they have taken only 4 or 5 schemes, and they see how polio was eradicated from beginning to the end.
Ah.
So each and every step they have written and analyzed, and where
Mm.
was the gap. So
Mm.
similarly, we need to look at maybe as citizen or as academicians, we should look at how different policies has been successful, where was the failure, and what was the reason of failure. So
Mm.
it is not always that the policy failed because of very big reason.
Mm. True.
Sometimes policy failed because of very small reason.
Yes. True. Very
Yeah.
true.
So that what would be the intervention point?
Mm.
Intervention which is not required in entire policy.
Mm.
Intervention required in some part. For
Right. Yeah.
example, UPI. You see
Mm.
UPI, and
Mm.
UPI whether it is working absolutely very well,
Mm.
but in some part where network is not there. So question is not the UPI is failed. Direct
Mm.
benefit is not failed. It's a
Mm.
failure of some network.
Network. Mm.
Maybe
Mm.
IT department has to work.
Mm.
So
Mm.
that again integrated approach is required.
Mm.
It's not failure of policy of direct benefit, or it's not failure
Yeah.
of this policy. It's a
Right.
failure of because of some other thing.
Infrastructure, the public infrastructure required to do that.
Public infrastructure. And the people will say, oh मेरा UPI नहीं चल रहा है, मुझे direct benefit नहीं मिल रहा है. So this is a miscommunication or maybe misunderstanding of the problem, not miscommunication. It's not, I mean, understanding the problem. आपको है fever है, but आपको medicine किसी और चीज की दी जा रही है.
True. True. True.
So
Also,
that is,
this is so powerful because it's easy to conceptualize and speak about it from a certain distance. But
yes,
when the rubber hits the road, what is the actual experience?
right,
And the experience, if it is wrong, nobody will link it to some part of the system. They will blame the entire system. They'll blame the vision because they, in
right.
their experience, that did not deliver the promise. Right? And human nature would be to discount the
Hmm.
promise itself, not
Yeah, yeah,
analyze.
yeah. Yes, yes, yes,
So I
yes,
think
yes.
this is actually then breaks the trust in the society. This
Absolutely.
creates cost for
Yes,
communication.
yes,
This is
yes.
something that
Absolutely.
we definitely need this part of our program. And when I look at it from our perspective, we need to bring a lot more uh, detail into this part because we understand the ideas, we understand the concepts, we understand the leadership and the strategy and how to implement, how to look at it from an Indian culture civilization. But the design of the experience, we speak about it. For example, one example in the demonetization time was
Hmm.
the challenge was with the people were not getting the money out because the
Hmm.
dimension of the machine did not fit the new notes, and
Right,
that created an additional challenge. Now
right,
nobody is
right,
thinking about policy making from a 3,000 level feet, is
right.
thinking about the actual experience of receiving money,
Yes,
and
yes.
they had to wait for 2 3 more days. It's a design challenge. I spoke about
It's a
it,
design. It's a design challenge.
design. So this
Yeah.
is, I mean, again, multi-disciplinary approach to policy making. How do you look at user experience? I come from
Right,
product development background, so it's very
right.
important thing for us to look at the actual emotions that are evoked when somebody interacts
Hmm.
with what you do.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's been
absolutely.
wonderful. Thank you, and I'm conscious of your time, and I'm very grateful that we have an opportunity to learn from somebody who's doing it, and
Thank you very much.
we
Yeah,
look to partner and anything, and I'll speak separately also with you out of this program.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I think
definitely, definitely.
this combination of institutional vision with some kind of learning from
Hmm.
our own culture, I think has a
Hmm.
very organic way of contributing to the common goals. So I'd like to
De-
explore that with you.
Definitely. We will talk separately
Yeah,
with for this. Yeah,
yeah.
definitely.